Hometown Veterans Honoring Our Heroes is one of many ways WDBJ7 supports and honors our local veterans. This series runs every last Thursday of each month, and the stories we've compiled are all incredible. I'm WDBJ7's Melissa Gayona, and tonight I have chosen 4 specific stories that impacted the hearts of many. This first piece brings light to a dark issue that affects far too many of our military men and women. We are talking about military suicide. We sat down with a mother who lost her son 6 months after returning home from deployment. Tonight we learn how one program borrows cell phones to tackle soldier suicide once and for all. Tucker Butterfield is your all-American boy. Loves Twinkies, the outdoors, and likes to keep mom on her toes.
The words wild and free come to mind. Frogs and worms to dirt bikes and quads to big, fast trucks. Just spending endless hours outdoors. He always had that mischievous twinkle in his eye.
Eventually, that child's play pretend conflict between cowboys and Indians became real life when he enlisted in the United States Army at the young age of 18. Now in infantry, Tucker would go into active duty as an airborne combat engineer. His mom, Mary Sue, says she worried about her son and jokingly says she tried to focus more on the engineer part and less of the combat. But Tucker's biggest fight would not show up until after he got out of the military.
It wasn't until like 3 months in that we started to notice the red flags, the substance use. He had missed work a couple times, was showing up late. Changes where he kind of had like a attitude like, well, does it really matter? Or I don't care type attitude. I didn't think really much of it. And I thought, oh, he's just, getting back into civilian life, catching up on things he missed. Things that were concerning, but we never ever thought suicide.
Despite her efforts to get her son the medical help he needed, she ran into roadblocks at every turn. Then on May 3rd of 2021, Mary Sue's only son was gone.
One of his friends called me and asked if I had talked to him and asked if I had seen a concerning Facebook post he had made. And I said no, and he said he was concerned. He was worried about it, So I dropped everything that I was doing and I went over to his apartment. I had a key and I let myself in, totally and literally thinking I would find him in bed or on the couch. But there he was. Instantly, I knew grief, pain, shock. I hit the floor on my knees. I prayed. But I knew,
More than 6,000 veterans die by suicide every single year. It ranks as the second leading cause of death in veterans under the age of 45. Austin Grimes is the Chief Product Officer for Stop Soldier Suicide, the only national nonprofit focused on preventing veteran suicide. We asked him his reasons for getting into this field, and to no surprise, it's personal.
I don't pretend to talk about it as some beautiful war story because it is ugly and real. But one of my best friends from high school, Robbie, we grew up together, neighbors across the street. After 2 deployments to Afghanistan with the Marines, Robbie came home and took his life.
To solve the military suicide crisis, Stop Soldier Suicide has marched into this fight with Black Box Project, a collaborative initiative with families like Robbie's and Tucker's.
So these families loan us devices that were owned by these individuals that died by suicide. And really the project is about using that data, using that insight that's never been available before to try to better understand some of the risk factors that precede a suicidal outcome.
Black Box Project is a unique operation because every digital device is kept secure and the data depersonalized, meaning families will not walk away with suicide notes or personal findings. However, the information is dehumanized and put into a report where the findings are shared with the broader field to act in prevention.
We get a look into their communications, their web browsing, their searches, text messages, phone calls, social media messages, anything that lives on that device, we can see.
Machine learning, artificial intelligence, and custom algorithms are applied and uncover the most private moments and patterns that precede suicide. Right now, Black Box Project is working with 125 families, including the Butterfields.
Why wouldn't I want to donate my device? Why wouldn't I want to prevent some other family from going through such terrible pain and undescribable heartache as my family and I have walked, and we're still walking?
I do look back at Robbie and I think about the Black Box Project and what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish. And I know that Robbie would have said, when we were in high school, he would have said two things. One, you're crazy, Austin. I'm never going to kill myself. Don't even talk to me about that. And two, if I could have convinced him that he was or would, he would have said, man, do whatever you can to save my life.
And if you've experienced a situation like Mary Sue and would like to learn more about Black Box Project or even how to participate, the first step is to schedule a phone call or a Zoom. You can visit stopsoldiersuicide.org for more information. For one Roanoke couple, for better or worse, was not just a marriage vow. It became a calling. Tonight we share the story of a disabled veteran and how his wife is now serving him with quiet strength.
Will you give me a kiss?
Give me a kiss.
No. Thank you.
It's a love story that started nearly 56 years ago.
We dated in high school.
But for Mrs. Becky Allen, she still gets giddy when she talks about her husband, Ed.
And then we went to a football game in Amherst.
Time has silvered her hair, but the love she has for her husband is youthful and still full of life, despite the twists and turns it's thrown.
And I think his speech through his stroke has affected more of that. But he listens to everything.
Mrs. Allen still considers him.
Would you like to bring him in here?
And even though her Prince Charming is no longer riding in on a white horse, he rolls in, still stealing her heart and saving her day.
Can you tell her hi? Do you remember Melissa? Did you see her on TV?
Ed is unable to respond, and there are many challenges that come with his care. But Becky keeps him at home and has an aide that helps her take care of him. And if you're having a conversation with her, you better believe she's going to include her man.
We ended up here in Roanoke, and we like it. Don't we, Ed? And, you know, he really has more than, he knows more than people think.
You see, things weren't always this way. Ed spent nearly 20 years at WDBJ7 as a business manager in the late 80s into the early 2000s. He also served in the United States Army.
Vietnam was going on. He had a brother in Vietnam. He figured, well, I'm going to be drafted, so I might as well go ahead and enlist. So he joined, went to Fort Jackson, then in turn went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, for survey school. Two of the men in his group got sent to Vietnam, and the rest of them got sent to Germany. And so he ended up going to Nuremberg, Germany.
Ed served a total of 3 years in the Army, but his success exceeded far beyond the military. He spent time at VMI, got his master's degree in industrial engineering, and was an avid runner.
So this is from the Boston Marathon, and this is where his name, see, they put everybody's name that runs.
These medals did not come from the military, but from the miles he refused to quit. It takes a special person to enlist themselves in the military in the middle of a brutal war. And it takes a whole other kind of person to run the way Ed did.
We have seen places that we never in our wildest dreams thought we'd see. Right, Ed? Huh? Did you ever think you'd go to Machu Picchu and Patagonia?
And just because his sneakers have come off, Ed's not done running his race, and Becky's still dreaming. Becky, what are your dreams now?
Oh, gee, to take care of him.
It's a marathon, no doubt, except in this one, Ed is always in first place. It's such a beautiful love story. Now, this next story is one of survival, starvation, brutal physical abuse, and even disease with no hope in sight. And this was the experience of one local veteran after being a POW in the fall of Bataan and Corregidor.
But this is shortly after my dad came back.
If you call him a hero, he'll quickly respond that he is not. He is a survivor. Coy Daugherty is originally from Galax, Virginia, and was a POW under the Japanese for 3.5 years. Coy's story is heavy, and he's no longer alive to tell it. But his youngest daughter is, and she invited WDBJ7 to her home.
Hi, Rebecca.
You can call me Becky.
As an homage to a great survivor. Why do you think it's so important to share your dad's story?
One of the very last things my dad said to me, he closed his eyes and he opened them and he looked at me and he said, Becky, never forget. He didn't have to say anything past that because I had heard it all before.
Becky Fowler is holding letters written by her dad, and for the first time, she's sharing these publicly.
These are words from my dad. A lot of you are not old enough to know how it was back in 1939. Times were hard. Our family was poor. You couldn't find a job. My dad had 10 kids to feed and he worked hard all the days of his life. On February 7, 1940, I enlisted in the U.S. Army and was assigned to the 59th CAC at Fort Mills, Corregidor, Philippines Islands. I was the happiest guy alive. I was making $21 a month, plus my uniforms, room, and board. We had plenty of recreation and entertainment. It was in one of the most beautiful places. I was well disciplined. Then on May 6, 1942, I lost everything. For the next 3.5 years, I would live in hell under the Japanese. A lot of you remember December 7, 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. I was 21 years old. We could see the Japanese planes flying over. On December 8th, the Japanese bombed Manila and just about everything in the Philippines, except Corregidor. About 2 weeks later, they dropped leaflets on Corregidor, saying they had not forgotten us and that they would be back. Sure enough, on December 29th, they hit us with everything they had. We fought day and night for 5.5 months. We kept waiting for supplies and reinforcements that never came. On May 6, 1942, General Wainwright surrendered to the Japanese. We were all lined up while the Japs took over. I'm telling you, you don't know what your country's flag means to you until you've seen it hauled down by the enemy. As Old Glory came down the mast, I don't think there was a dry eye in the whole group. For the next 3.5 years, I would spend as a prisoner of war of the Japanese. Many would die from starvation. These long, hard years with only 9 out of 100 American veterans returning home.
Coy survived. Liberated on August 14, 1945, he was 69 pounds when the troops came to collect the POWs. Becky says he made a pact with God that if he got him home, he would spend the rest of his life serving him. And that's exactly what Coy did, even when life threw another punch.
Here is a really good shot of him with a headband on. He was diagnosed in the early 90s with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he lived another 9 years after that, and he attributed that to being doused with DDT. They were doused with that as POWs. All of them were lined up, sprayed down, doused to get rid of the lice and everything else that was on them.
Staff Sergeant Coy Daugherty passed in February 2003, and the baby girl he once cared for was now taking care of him. In his final hours, the weight of war still palpable. His youngest daughter had heard the stories of starvation, the brutality, and the years stolen. But what came out of his mouth would mark her forever.
He closed his eyes one night, Melissa, and he said, "Becky, do you think there's a place between heaven and hell for people like me who can't forget what the Japanese did to us?" And I have never prayed so hard in my life. I closed my eyes and I said, "Lord, give me the words because I don't have them." And it hit me and I opened my eyes and I said, "Daddy, you don't have to forget what they did. You just have to forgive them like Christ did on the cross. You have to forgive them." He closed his eyes and he nodded his head, and I think in that moment he finally let go.
And Doherty is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. And listen to this. He was awarded the Purple Heart, Prisoner of War Medal, Army Good Conduct Medal, American Defense Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign, World War II Victory, Army Service Ribbon with 1 Bronze Star, and the Philippine Liberation Medal, as well as Distinguished Service Medal Unit Badge with 2 bronze oak leaf clusters. Now that's what I like to call a hero. From combat veteran to cosmetology school, that is the story of one man who was on a mission to spread awareness of military suicide, and he's doing it with a barber shop on wheels. Parked just outside of Salem Fire Station 1, the hum of clippers replaces the sound of gunfire. Inside this mobile barber shop, a retired combat infantryman is serving again, except this time he's in a different uniform.
I like it. Thank you, Mike. Yes, sir.
Michael Hughes, you can call him Mike, stands about 6'5". He served infantry in both the Marine Corps and the United States Army. You'd never expect that this big military man went from combat in Afghanistan and Iraq to cosmetology school.
So if you can imagine a divorced 43-year-old heterosexual combat vet going to beauty school with a bunch of 17 to 23-year-old girls. That was quite the experience.
Battle and beauty have nothing in common, but if you take a moment to hear the story behind Mike's personal fight,
oh yeah, that's going to be a good summer look.
You'll see the attraction.
A lot of my issues from my deployments popped up. And you know, kind of slowly, but towards the end of my career, they got worse, and you know, to the point that I became extremely close to being one of the 22 a day. But when I was really in the depth of my depression and PTSD, and the only place that I found solace was, you know, in a dark basement, you know, alone. You know, had my phone turned off, not having any contact with anybody. So getting into barbering was something that, again, was one of my therapies because it forced me to be around other people and talk.
Today is special for Mike because it's the launch of his new mobile barber shop, Mission 22. To kick things off, he's giving free haircuts to first responders like this firefighter, Cunningham, who puts his life on the line every day for his local community. The long-term goal is delivering haircuts to busy people by coming to them. The perk? 22 cents from every haircut will go towards an organization that helps veterans and raise awareness of veteran suicide along the way.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between the brotherhood and the sisterhood that we have between the military and the police department and firefighters, because we have to rely on the guy to the and the girl to the left and right of us, because if not, then we may not go home.
Mike's empathy is put into action as he serves those who sit in his chair. But here there's no clipboard, just clippers. As hair falls, so does the stress of those who sit here and unload life's worries. The cape is a reminder that this is a safe space. The mirror, a reflection that we are never alone. Mike says the bravest thing he ever did was not on a battlefield. It was asking for help. And if you or someone you know has served in the military or is serving and would be willing to share their story with me, you can reach out at mgaona@wdbj7.com. We'd be honored to share their story on the next Hometown Veterans Honoring Our Heroes. That does it for us here today. I'm Melissa Gaona. Thank you for joining us here on WDBJ7 Plus.
Hometown Veterans Honoring Our Heroes is sponsored by Joyce & Barry Law.